So my story with encephalitis started in 2014. I had just finished my psychology degree and I decided to go travelling to Southeast Asia, with the first stop being Thailand. I had a part-time job to save up for the money to go, and then I think I went in March 2014. And the plan was to go by myself, and I was meeting a group of people out there, and I was meeting my mum for a 2-week holiday in between before going to Vietnam. I was in Thailand because I had just wanted to go travelling. I just decided I'd always wanted to go to Southeast Asia, and all of my friends were getting jobs or going back to uni, and I thought I would just go by myself. So I met a group of people out there, and my initial plan was to go to Thailand for a month with them, and then I was meeting mum for a 2-week holiday in between before going elsewhere. So during that holiday, it was mainly just travelling around the different areas. I did a bit of volunteering in a Thai tribal village. So we involved teaching children English, just playing with them, making lunch, kind of just spending time with them. I went there and I had an amazing time, just generally having a look around. And then I started to get flu-like symptoms where my whole body was aching, I had headaches. And that's how it initially started, and I was just in bed for the day. I couldn't really do anything. I went to the pharmacy and they gave me a course of tablets. I think I was taking about 9 tablets a day for 3 days. And it actually made me feel a lot better, and I was able to carry on for another 2 weeks, I think, before I met my mum. And then whenever I met my mum, I started to go downhill again, where I was getting headaches and feeling a little bit sick. And then I started to get a bit confused about things, or so my mum had said. My mum found me in the hotel room unconscious. Obviously, she rushed to the reception area and they rushed me to a GP surgery as they just thought it was the heat. They didn't think it was anything serious to begin with. As soon as we went to the doctors, they said it was the brain and that we didn't have time to wait for an ambulance and that we had to go in a taxi. And then once we got there, all the doctors and nurses were waiting for us. And then within 10 minutes of being in the hospital, I took a cardiac arrest and I was resuscitated and put on all of the machines. Whilst I was there, they found out it was Japanese encephalitis after doing the scans and the lumbar puncture. They also found that I was suffering with a bacterial blood infection called melioidosis, which you can get from inhaling infected soil or water. I had to be stabilised there for, I think, 2 nights in total. And then I was flown to Bangkok Hospital as they had specialists and more, just better equipment to be able to cope with what I was going through. And then once I was there, I was in ICU for about a week. When I eventually came out of the coma, I just couldn't do very much. I couldn't really walk. I was very confused. I couldn't remember who my brother was. I couldn't remember different people or past events that happened. I think the day after that, my airway started to close over. From the intubation, they said the scar tissue had started to form. So I was rushed down for an emergency operation to open that up. So I was having, I think, 2 hours a day where I was learning how to walk again, get my strength up, walking upstairs, and just generally getting better. So when I got back to England, I took a lot of time off. So I kind of stopped my normal life and put it on hold for a while. So in total, I took 18 months off, and that involved just kind of resting, having lots of sleep, having probably a doctor's appointment once a week for blood tests, for checkups, and just resting, really. I was always quite positive about what had happened because I was always told that I was very lucky to be alive, and otherwise I could have been severely brain damaged. So I always remained positive in that sense, but obviously being 21, it was quite restricting. I felt sad because I couldn't no longer do things I used to be able to do. I couldn't drive for a year because of the seizures. I couldn't go to work or uni. I couldn't really see my friends as much because of the tiredness. So it affected my life quite a lot to begin with. I think the main thing is to not rush your recovery. I know a lot of people think that they're actually better, but it actually takes a long time. And I kind of found that out for myself by trying to push myself to do things and then actually having to sleep for a week just to catch up with my tiredness. One word I would use to describe encephalitis would be life-changing. It affected my life in more ways than I could have imagined. I try not to let it hold me back from doing anything, but it kind of makes me plan ahead and think about things a lot differently than I would have. My friendships haven't changed that much. I don't see them as much as I would like to anymore, but I think they understand that I had quite a bit big impact on my levels, like my fatigue levels and my headaches, so they understand that I can't see them as much as I used to. It makes me feel sad. It's a weird way to describe it because I feel sad about it, but then I feel very lucky to be the way I am. I could have been a lot worse, I know. Just having to change the way I live slightly, it's not like a massive change. People are always really shocked because it's quite a dramatic story. I don't think they think I should be like this now. I don't think they sometimes realise that I have headaches every day, I have tiredness, I have memory problems. So it's not like a visible illness, so they can't really maybe empathise as much as other illnesses. I used to be very shy and care about what people thought a lot, whereas now I don't really care as much. I don't know why, I just feel like I'm more confident and I kind of put myself in situations that will help me do things. I don't know, I feel like it's some sort of that I feel very lucky to be alive and that I shouldn't let things hold me back anymore and I should just put myself out there. I had never heard of Japanese encephalitis. I had no background information about it. So I went to the travel clinic to get my vaccinations and I was recommended that I definitely had to have the typhoid and hepatitis A. And then they kind of described it as putting a line underneath and saying that rabies and Japanese encephalitis, that I have a very low risk of having those. I wasn't in a high risk area, that I had a 1 in a million chance, I was told, of having it. And they said I just didn't really need it if I didn't want to have it. I would tell people to definitely get the vaccination, even though you have a very small chance of having it or you might be in a low risk area, it still is possible. And the effects can be life-threatening. You can die from it, you can have severe brain damage. I was very lucky not to have any of those, but if I had a chance again, I would go back and have it. The Encephalitis Society have been really helpful. I know when I first came home from Thailand, my mum contacted them and she was provided with lots of information from John on the telephone. We were sent out information packs, which were really helpful because we'd never heard of encephalitis. I didn't realise there were so many different types. I didn't realise the effects it could have on you, or we weren't sure where we could get support from. So they all helped for us to kind of get to know people and realise that I wasn't the only one who had had it. The future's actually very exciting. I've just finished my master's in neuropsychology and I'm currently working as an assistant psychologist, and I hope to carry on with my initial plans of doing my doctorate in clinical psychology and then hopefully specialising again in neuropsychology so I can help people who've been similar to me and going through the same process I have. I feel like I understand it a lot more now after having been through all of that. I have some sort of empathy for people in my situation. I feel that's a real advantage, talking to people and being able to help them once I've been through the same thing as them.